Bay of rain and cloud across the north of Scotland and quite widely across the UK in those spells of sunshine. Temperatures will be above 20 degrees. We could see 23 or even 24 down towards the southeast. Again, a little bit cooler, especially across the north of Scotland and the Northern Isles in particular. Now, heading into the weekend, it looks like high pressure will be sitting out towards the east there. This weather front will just try and nudge in from the west by the time we get to Sunday. But Saturday certainly looking dry, fine, pretty warm for all of us. Just that chance of a few showers moving into the west as we head through Sunday. Bye for now.
The world of film is changing faster and faster all the time. I've been reporting on cinema for more than 40 years. So what's it like to be an Oscar nominee? Our global Talking Movies team...
How does that work on set?
...brings you up to date on the latest in movie making from around the world.
Looking at stories from other cultures.
Interviewing top filmmakers and stars.
People seem to be emotionally charged by the film.
From blockbusters to art house cinema, we'll spotlight the brilliant and unique voices bringing their stories to the big screen.
Talking Movies. Watch on BBC iPlayer.
The BBC World Service is a powerhouse. It's the world's radio station. How cool is that?
There were many occasions like the landing on the moon, which I learned about through the BBC World Service.
The BBC has provided joy, hope and grace all over the world, which is really rare, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
It's no exaggeration to say the BBC World Service has become the international watchword for quality broadcasting.
The BBC World Service. Listen on Sounds.
The day's most important stories. Sent every weekday direct to your inbox. Get the news you need to know and understand what it means for you. Don't miss out. Stay informed. Go to bbc.co.uk/newsdaily and sign up now.
How plugged in is the world's biggest car maker? Toyota's full-year results are out shortly as it aims to hog the fast lane. TikTok launches its legal battle in the US, arguing a potential ban is an extraordinary intrusion on free speech. Plus, are things looking rosier in the Magic Kingdom? Disney's streaming service turns a quarterly profit for the first time in years. Hello and welcome to the first morning edition of Business Today with me, Sally Bundock. Good to have you with us. We're starting with Toyota, the world's biggest car maker by sales, is poised to reveal how well it is doing with its latest quarterly financial results, with analysts expecting revenues in the region of $67 billion. Now, when Koji Sato became chief executive a year ago, he promised the company would finally embrace electric vehicles, but with global demand for EVs easing, the company is continuing to prioritise hybrids. More challenges followed, including multiple probes relating to historic regulations, several scandals and intense competition from China. It is tough to try and stay at the top. Let's get the view of a big investor in Toyota, Masaki Takisume, who's a fund manager of Schroeder Japan Trust. Welcome to the programme. So what are you hoping to hear from Toyota today?
Yes, in terms of earnings, we expect a solid result, but rather conservative guidance for this year. Just in terms of actual result, ended March 2024, Toyota guided roughly 4.9 trillion operating profit, but we expect Toyota to exceed that profit. But in terms of this fiscal year guidance for the March 2025, I wouldn't be surprised if Toyota provides a rather conservative guidance below the market consensus forecast, maybe calling for the flat or slight decline in earnings. So that's something we are expecting for the result is under guidance. Yeah.
And Koji Sato has been in the chair as chief exec now for a year. How is he performing, and what are people saying about him as leader of Toyota?
I think new leader is managing the Toyota is quite well to sustain the stable unit growth as well as earnings growth. and continue to gain the market share. So there has not been huge change in the strategy itself, but it's a good natural progression for the strategy Toyota has been holding. Yeah.
Okay, well, as we've mentioned, we'll be getting the numbers from Toyota within the next half an hour, so we will speak to you a little later when we do get those results. But thank you very much for your analysis for now. So more from Toyota later. But let's now talk about this story, which is has a big impact on young people across the United Kingdom, because tech firms are being told they must do more to protect children online. Ofcom, the UK regulator, says they must tame toxic algorithms and has outlined more than 40 practical steps that services must take to keep children safer. They include robust age checks to prevent children seeing harmful content, and such material must be filtered out or down-ranked in recommended content. So how groundbreaking is this in terms of protecting children, and what are the implications for the big tech companies? Let's unpack this with Dr. Sam Fowles, barrister specialising in this sector. Good to have you on the programme. We're talking about, it says 40 new steps that tech firms have to adhere to. Talk us through what this really means in the law. Is this really got teeth, Ofcom's new moves?
Yes, potentially is the answer. So the Online Safety Act, which was passed last year, that puts quite a radical duty on tech companies, which who have always said, we're just publishers, we're not responsible for the content of what's on our platform. The Online Safety Act says, well, in respect of children, now you are. You've got a duty to protect children. However, that duty was quite broad. It didn't have much detail. The code is putting more flesh on the bones of that. So the code is essentially Ofcom saying, this is what compliance with your legal duty looks like. So although the code isn't enforceable in and of itself, it's how it shows you how you comply with the legal duties under the Online Safety Act to protect children.
It's interesting that some of the leading campaigners who have been looking to try and protect children, parents who've lost children, sadly, in circumstances linked to harmful content online, are saying that this is just not strong enough, the reaction from Ofcom in terms of the steps they're taking.
Yes. I think the criticism that's being made of it is that it's all a bit surface level. So Ofcom are targeting the right areas. They're looking at age checks. They're looking at whether the algorithms recommend harmful content, and they're looking at content moderation. However, the core problem seems to be, though, that not a technological problem, but a business problem. And the business problem is that the way algorithms work in these sort of sites is they want to get you hooked. They want to draw you in. And they do that by recommending more extreme or intensive content in the area that you're interested in. So if you're interested in, I don't know, football, they're going to offer you more and more intense football content. Fine if it's football, more of a problem if it's something harmful. And I think that's what parents are worried about.
So just, Sam, very quickly in summary, the tech companies themselves, the likes of Meta and others, TikTok, are they concerned about this? Will this change their behaviour in terms of how they police what kids are able to see?
I think it has to change their business behaviour to a certain extent. The question, of course, is how tough Ofcom are going to be with enforcing this. So Ofcom have got some very tough powers. They can fine up to 10% of global turnover. The question is going to be whether they use those powers, and that's what eventually is going to make tech companies sit up and take notice.
All right, Dr. Sam Fowles, thank you very much for your analysis. And just to say that there is a very in-depth, detailed report on our website about that. Do take a look online. Now let's bring you some other business stories. A nationwide issue which caused huge delays at Passport e-Gates has been resolved, so says the Home Office. Airports including Heathrow, Gatwick, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Bristol, Newcastle and Manchester all confirmed a border force problem was causing delays, with arrivals late on Tuesday. Apple has announced a new lineup of iPad tablets with a powerful AI chip called the M4. The new devices are the company's first iPad release in 2 years. That's the longest gap in iPad releases since they first launched in 2010. Apple's expected to make a series of more ambitious AI announcements at its Worldwide Developers Conference next month. Meanwhile, the US has revoked export licenses that allow companies to ship goods, including advanced semiconductors, to the Chinese tech company Huawei. The move follows the release last month of Huawei's first AI-enabled laptop, the MateBook X Pro, powered by an Intel processor. Republicans in Congress have been urging President Biden to take tougher action to rein in Huawei. Let's stay with technology because the short video app TikTok has filed a lawsuit in the United States aiming to block a law that could ban it in the US. The social media platform described the legislation as an extraordinary intrusion on free speech rights. Michelle Fleury, who's in New York for us, has the latest.
TikTok is hugely popular in America. 170 million people use the platform to communicate. Lawmakers aren't so keen. Congress and the Biden administration believe the app and its Chinese owners ByteDance could be a danger to national security. The argument goes that Beijing could commandeer it to surveil and manipulate Americans. So they've given the company until the day before the next US president takes office on the 20th of January to sell or face a ban here in the United States. TikTok, well, it's fighting back, challenging the constitutionality of the new law, arguing in its legal filing, for the first time in history, Congress has enacted a law that subjects a single named speech platform to a permanent nationwide ban. The company also says that it's not possible legally, technically, or commercially to divest within that timeframe. Part of the challenge is that with 1 billion users worldwide, a lot of its content is actually available across borders, making it all on harder to unpick. The US Justice Department declined to comment, but here's what White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had to say when asked about why President Biden continues to use TikTok for his political campaign.
So as it relates to the campaign and obviously other congressional members, they have to speak to themselves. The campaign has to speak to it. We've been very clear, what this law is not a ban, it is a divestment.
TikTok CEO Shou-Ji Chu, who appeared with his wife Vivian Cao at the Met Gala last night, is hoping TikTok's other recent First Amendment victories in the US, like blocking the state of Montana's bid to ban it, will help it prevail again. Outside of the courts, TikTok's best hope in a general election year is for Donald Trump to retake the White House, given that one of Mr. Trump's big backers and a major Republican donor, Jeff Yass, is also a TikTok investor.
Michelle Fleury there. Let's now focus on Walt Disney Company. It's recorded its first quarter of profitability in its streaming division after years of losses, saying it has added 6 million new subscribers to Disney+. But overall, the entertainment giant reported a loss of $20 million in its second quarter. That with more than explained, should I say, by a $2 billion write-off in India. To boost profits, though, Disney is rolling out a crackdown on password sharing, which is something that Netflix has implemented and seen some success with. Well, let's unpack this with Tom Stevenson, Investment Director at Fidelity. Good to see you, Tom. So, how are things in the Magic Kingdom for Disney? Because it's been a torrid time for several years, hasn't it? With Bob Iger going and coming back, where is it at now?
Well, like everyone else in the entertainment business, Disney is going through quite a difficult transition. And the focus of that transition you've mentioned is this shift from the cozy world of cable subscriptions to the much more competitive and low margin and hungry world of streaming. You know, I say hungry, it's a hungry beast. You have to keep feeding a streaming service with new content. And you have to keep growing subscribers. And this is the challenge for Disney, is moving from that old world, profitable world, to a new, much more competitive world. There was some good news in these results. As you say, the core Disney Plus streaming service and Hulu, its smaller partner, is back in profitability. But what the market didn't like, and this caused a big fall in the share price yesterday, the guidance for future quarters was a bit soft, and that is what the company is looking for. You're absolutely right. There's been a very painful boardroom battle with the activist investor Nelson Peltz. Disney won that. Now it has to prove that it can get back to profitability on a sustainable basis, and that's what the market is a bit suspicious about. It doesn't know that it can really make that transition.
Yeah, and I guess it's a watch this space scenario, isn't it? Because a lot of the unknowns, one of them being the pandemic and the impact on Disney and its theme parks. I mean, it has been, as I said, in recent years, been through a really difficult phase. Is it a kind of wait and see now? Because the big challenges, some of them have been sorted out.
Absolutely. So if streaming is one big challenge, the second big challenge really is the transition, how to navigate this transition from the pandemic. So everything shut down in the pandemic. Then there was a return to normal life, if you like, and people started going back to the theme parks. That was a very positive. That is now beginning to slow down, and the company referenced that in their results yesterday. They said there's a slowdown in activity, people going to theme parks and resorts. And then the third challenge, really, for Disney is what happens after Bob Iger. As you say, he's already retired and come back out of retirement to manage this transition for the company. But he's 73 years old, and he can't go on forever. And a big question mark is, who takes over from Bob Iger?
Yeah, succession, as we all know only too well. Tom, thank you very much. Good to see you. Have a good week. We'll see you again soon. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. You're with Business Today. We're looking at the top business stories. And artificial intelligence lacks the human judgment skills needed to set interest rates. That is according to the head of the Monetary Authority of Singapore. He said AI was being used in areas such as fraud detection, but also that it was not at a stage to, what he says, supplant human judgment. Well, let's go to our Asia Business Hub. Monica Miller has been looking into this for us, Monica. And I would imagine Jerome Powell, Christine Lagarde may be breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah, central banks really need to figure out what they want to do with this technology. There are pros and cons, but as you had just described, the head of the central bank here in Singapore had raised concern that artificial intelligence does lack human judgment skills on things, particularly, say, interest rates. You know, there is a great deal of judgment involved, human understanding of behavior, and trying to figure a path forward for how do you deal with something like the cost of living. You know, but they also raised concerns about AI will get into the wrong hands and can be used by cyber criminals looking to launch attacks on the system. You know, but again, while there are plenty of dangers here, the panel at this conference in Switzerland also said that they agree that there are great benefits when it comes to the advancements of AI and that it's currently being used in some economic models as well as areas to detect fraud.
OK, Monica, thank you very much indeed. Interesting. We'll keep an eye. Now let's head to Finland, where one city is on an ambitious path to become carbon neutral. Home to 120,000 people, Lahti was once a polluted industrial town, but over the past couple of decades, it has transformed itself. And 3 years ago, it was named Europe's green capital. Adrian Murray has been to Lahti to find out what lessons other cities can learn.
Warming up for another big game. It's not just goals that the Pelicans want to score. Lahti's ice hockey team is trying to go green. This arena uses renewable energy, and the team travelled to domestic matches on a biodiesel-fuelled bus.
We are going to zero, and we like to go below it, even to negative. The biggest thing why we start this project, we like to show the way how to do things better.
Their efforts have helped win sponsors and also influence the fans.
When we started counting, almost everybody came by their own car. Nowadays they have changed their habits.
Lahti was once a polluted industrial city, but over the years it's transformed itself and is forging a greener future.
Getting rid of coal was a major step. This plant supplies citywide electricity and heating, using wood chips and residual waste from forestry and households.
If we look back to early 2000, our total emissions were over 1 million tons of CO2 annually. 2020, that was reduced to close to 100,000 tons. So a huge reduction, over a million tons within 20 years.
Across the city, there's cleaner public transport, like electric buses, bike sharing, and lots of cycle paths. Even the orchestra is tracking its footprint and aims to be carbon-free. Reuse and recycling rates are also high, and a big part of the work is engaging the local community. Though take-up has been mixed, apps have also been tested out to encourage users to live more sustainably. Resident Ulla Leitonen says she tries to make sustainable choices.
I use my bike more or less every day, even in the snow. I try to eat more vegetarian food. I don't remember when I flew for my holiday last time. I'm a better person when I'm environmentally conscious.
Heating, transport and food are among the biggest areas to tackle. However, some habits are hard to change, like steering drivers away from petrol cars.
Ainoa tapa rakentaa kestävä tulevaisuus.
Still, it's aiming to be among the first cities to become carbon neutral.
We have been able to cut 64% of our CO2 emissions, where our target is to cut 80% and to bind the rest in carbon sinks or to compensate. We won't be able to make it in 2025, but 2026, 27 or 28 is possible.
There's still plenty more to do, of course, but a greener future is one goal that lots of people can get behind. Adrienne Murray, BBC News, Lahti.
In India, the Supreme Court has ruled that liability for misleading advertisements must be carried not just by advertisers and companies, but also by those celebrities and influencers who are endorsing them. From Delhi, here's Arunoday Mukherjee, who has more on the court's decision.
Expressing concern about the risks of misleading and deceptive ads, the Supreme Court has suggested a few precautionary steps, asking advertisers to fill up a self-declaration form and upload it to a relevant portal and share it with relevant authorities. The Supreme Court has also held accountable several government ministries, asking them to respond to the court about what kind of action they have taken on any complaints they received about misleading and deceptive ads. Before this hearing, the Supreme Court also cautioned FMCG companies against the advertisements that they put out where they claim their products can cure certain illnesses. Now, the issue of misleading and deceptive ads has been dominating Indian headlines for a while now, ever since the Indian Supreme Court pulled up a very popular yoga guru, Baba Ramdev, with millions of followers and a massive business empire, asking him to apologize for misleading ads. In fact, the yoga guru had to put out ads in the newspaper saying he was sorry for misleading advertisements, saying that his products could cure various ailments, especially during the COVID pandemic. Now, all these observations by the Supreme Court are being seen in entirety and as a caution and a warning to the entire advertising industry in the country.
Arunadai Mukherjee there. Now, the Olympic flame for Paris 2024 will arrive on French soil today after completing its Mediterranean crossing from Greece to Marseille. Brands are queuing up to associate with this Olympics and the Paris Games. One's the world's largest luxury goods company, LVMH. It will be a premium sponsor of the Summer Games. The Louis Vuitton owner is pouring a rumoured €150 million into the Olympic and Paralympic Games, the biggest sponsorship commitment of any company at this year's events. Well, let's discuss this with Misha Sher, who's Global Head of Sport, Entertainment and Culture at Essence Mediacom. Good to have you on the programme. So why is this so lucrative, the Olympic Games? Talk us through it as a marketing opportunity.
Well, look, there aren't many events, opportunities for global companies or for companies anywhere to get it to connect with a truly iconic global event. We look at the way that media is today; it's so disjointed. Olympic Games remains Olympic Games and the World Cup are really the only events that bring people together, and they're associated with unity, with excellence, with sportsmanship, and these are the kinds of brand attributes that every company wants to be associated with.
So it has huge pulling power, as you have just explained. LVMH has deep pockets. Not surprising it would be investing in this particular Games taking place in Paris, is it, I suppose?
No, not surprising at all. It's one of the most, Paris is one of the most iconic cities on the planet, and LVMH is one of the most iconic companies and one of the most iconic French companies. So, it's little surprise that they were very, very involved in the bid for the Games. And since the Games were awarded to Paris, being heavily involved in the way that the Games are going to be carried out through providing uniforms, through Louis Vuitton, Dior, Berluti, sponsoring athletes, providing spirits and hospitality areas through products of Moet Hennessy, wines and spirits, by creating medals through another one of their maisons, which is Chaumet. So you will see their brands everywhere, in every part and every fabric of these Olympic Games.
And putting on a game such as this is expensive. We all know it only too well, the countries that have hosted the Olympic Games. So sponsorship, such lucrative deals such as €150 million is critical, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's very, very expensive to put these games on, and the host cities rely on sponsors and global sponsors and many of the locals. There are different tiers, but many of the local companies to come on board and support in any way they can, and they often do. So it's little surprise that LVMH has gotten involved in legacy being such a big part of the Olympic Games. It's little surprise that they wanted to be part of not just showing the best of France, but making sure that the Games leave a legacy.
Misha Sher, thank you for telling us your thoughts on that. Really interesting. I'm sure many of us around the world will be glued to the Olympic Games when they do start later in Paris this year. But for now, it's goodbye from me. Thank you for your company once again. Have a good day. I'll see you soon.
Hello. The weather has been gradually drying up over the past 24 hours or so, and we've got some more dry, settled weather on the cards through much of the week ahead, really. High pressure is going to be in charge over the next few days, but for the rest of the week, we will at times see weather fronts just trying to topple across the north of that high pressure. Could bring a little bit of rain at times across parts of Scotland in particular, perhaps the north of Northern Ireland, but it'll be warming up here. Mostly dry elsewhere, though, with some spells of sunshine on the cards. So we are in for a relatively quiet few days of weather. We're likely to start Wednesday morning with quite a bit of mist and fog around, especially so for parts of eastern England, also perhaps Wales and the southwest of England. Could be some misty patches elsewhere. For most, they'll tend to lift and clear, so it'll brighten up. Some sunny spells, particularly for England and Wales. Just the odd isolated shower. More rain moving into the northwest of Scotland later on in the afternoon. So temperatures in the northwest under the cloud, only about 13 there for Stornoway, but up to around about 21 for the likes of Birmingham and London too. So there's that wet weather through Wednesday evening. Northern Ireland, northern and western Scotland seeing some outbreaks of rain. Further south, most places staying dry, but there should be some mist and some fog that's going to be forming again into the early hours of Thursday morning. But certainly mild, many places staying in double figures overnight. So more of the same on Thursday. High pressure still in charge, so a lot of dry weather, mist clearing away gradually. Lots of sunshine, I think, for England and Wales by this stage. It just could be the odd isolated shower. Again, a little bit more cloud across the north of Scotland. Temperatures in Lerwick only around 11 degrees, but for the bulk of the UK, we're looking at around about 18 to 22 degrees. And that warming trend will continue as we head into Friday too. So high pressure still very much in charge. I think by Friday we'll have less in the way of rain and cloud across the north of Scotland and quite widely across the UK in those spells of sunshine. Temperatures will be above 20 degrees. We could see 23 or even 24 down towards the southeast. Again, a little bit cooler, especially across the north of Scotland and the Northern Isles in particular. Now, heading into the weekend, it looks like high pressure will be sitting out towards the east there. This weather front will just try and nudge in from the west by the time we get to Sunday. But Saturday certainly looking dry, fine, pretty warm for all of us. Just that chance of a few showers moving into the west as we head through Sunday. Bye for now.
I used to work the whole day when I was pregnant. I wouldn't take much rest. I remember being thirsty all the time and out of breath.
Acabamos de llegar al lugar donde va a comenzar la búsqueda del migrante desaparecido.
So from where we're at right now, we can see from left to right and right to left, a heavily wooded area denotes the border between North and South Korea. There are no fences, there are no barriers, and there are no walls that separate North and South.
زنایی که فقط باید سکوت کنن، هیچ کس نباید صدایشان رو بشنوه، صدای گپشان رو بشنوه. ما تصمیم گرفتیم که در اونجا باید صدامون رو به شکل آهنگ بیرون کنیم.
Just because we've got a disability doesn't mean that we are children. We are adults and with hopes and dreams. Without sports, none of us would be here.
Inspiring short films from the BBC. Watch now on iPlayer.
Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast with John Kay and Sally Nugent.
Hello, it's 6 o'clock. Here are our headlines this morning. The parents of 11 children whose deaths were linked to social media call on Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer to do more to protect young people online.
It's so hard. And it's not just that this content is there, that it's the platforms are promoting this content. Their algorithms are suggesting to young people that they see ever more of it.
It comes as the media regulator Ofcom today sets out plans which it says will force tech companies to make their platforms safer.
Also this morning, chaos at airports right across the country as a failure of e-gates at passport control causes long queues.
I guess I always overestimate you. And Ireland breaks its Eurovision curse. It's back in the grand final thanks to a self-styled gremlin goblin witch.
A game away from becoming European champions, how Jadon Sancho's move from Manchester to Germany pays off as Borussia Dortmund spring a surprise to reach the Champions League final, ending Mbappe and Paris Saint-Germain's hopes of lifting the title.
And it's a little bit foggy out there for some, but it should brighten up once again. And whilst most will stay dry today, northern Scotland rain will arrive later. I've got full details coming up here on Breakfast.
Good morning. It is Wednesday, the 8th of May. Our main story for you. The parents of 11 children who died after what they say were the failings of social media have called on Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer to do more to protect young people online.
In an open letter published this morning, they say they are disappointed by the lack of ambition shown by the regulator Ofcom, which has today set out its plans to force tech companies to make their platforms safer. Here's our correspondent Angus Crawford.
I want to know what they've got to say, and I want them to meet people with lived experience.
It's really important to try and understand what Ofcom are doing, because from the outside they seem to be doing so little, which is ridiculous and frustrating.
Brianna and Molly, their short lives spurring their parents on to try and make the online world a safer place for all children. We showed them posts and pictures easy to find on social media.